Fresh off an election in Wisconsin where voters said no to Elon Musk and to Doge, NBC News has learned that President Trump has told members of his cabinet that Musk will leave in the coming months. The two reportedly discussed his transition back to the private sector during a March 24th cabinet meeting. Trump said this week that Musk would be going back to his company, quote, at some point. But last night's rejection in Wisconsin could possibly affect that timeline after Susan Crawford, the liberal candidate in the state's Supreme Court race, won a decisive 10-point victory over the Musk-backed conservative. It's a rebuke of the $20 million of his own money that Musk spent on the race and his last-minute pitch wearing a cheese head and handing out checks. Who wouldn't love that? Today, Musk tried to spin his way out of rejection just days after saying that the judicial race would decide the fate of Western civilization. He now says he expected to lose and claimed that the biggest issue in Wisconsin was the question adding the state's existing voter ID law to its constitution. Joining me now to discuss all of this, MSNBC political analyst and former Senator Claire McCaskill and Christina Greer, political scientist and host of the FAQ NYC podcast. Claire McCaskill, this race was supposed to decide Western civilization. And now he says it's not a big deal. That makes me think this did not go as he expected.
Yeah, you know when you put on a cheese head and you walk out in all black and you do a 2-inch jump and spread your arms like you're a middle schooler, that you don't have a firm grip on reality and how you're going to be perceived by most people in Wisconsin. He really motivated Democrats to get out and vote. He clearly was trying to buy the election. He thought it was a big deal. That's why he invested that kind of money, multiples of what any other donor gave on either side. I mean, it wasn't even close. And you know what's really interesting? What he said was a big deal, what they won, was a voter ID law that has been in place for almost a decade in Wisconsin. Of course, people were going to vote for it. They're used to it. They've been doing it for 10 years. So the idea that it went from a statute to the Constitution, him saying that was the real thing he was worried about, come on. He's getting almost as prolific at lying as the guy who put him where he is right now with all this power, Donald Trump.
Well, and Christina Greer, if someone does not believe Claire McCaskill, perhaps they will believe the right-leaning editorial board of the Wall Street Journal. They wrote this: Democrats sought to make the race a referendum on Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Mr. Musk responded by trying to mobilize the Trump voters who tend to stay home in spring elections. The Democratic bet paid off. That's a warning to the GOP that the Trump-Musk governing style is stirring a backlash that could cost them control of Congress next year. I don't think it is the style. I think it's that they promised them one thing. We're going to be laser-like focused on the economy. We're going to make America safer. And instead, they have taken their eye off that ball and started playing in an entirely separate court.
Absolutely. And what they're giving a lot of folks in Wisconsin is chaos. So people are uncertain about their futures. They're uncertain about their jobs. They're uncertain about Social Security. They're uncertain about tariffs. They're uncertain about goods and services. And so what it's also a lesson about, not just a rejection of Republican promises, which were laid out quite clearly in Project 2025 all of last year, but I think it should also serve as a blueprint for Democrats. When you actually have a candidate who sticks to a message, who is very clear about the future of the Democratic Party, we actually can have people power and not just money. Money is great, don't get me wrong. It helps you put ads on television, it helps you communicate with voters. But when people are mobilized in an off-year election, I call them odd-year elections, in an odd-year election, you can mobilize over 1 million Democrats to come out to save the democracy. That should be part of the messaging for Democrats to say, we actually have the power to take back our democracy. Let's actually exercise it and not just sort of wring our hands and say, well, he's doing so much. We don't really know what to do.
I think Cory Booker put an end to that last night. Claire McCaskill, the beginning of the end. Claire McCaskill, it wasn't just Wisconsin. It was also Florida. And I want you to pick up on what Dr. Greer was saying about the road forward that that this may show for Democrats. Democrats lost in those 2 seats, but their margins were impressive. In one of Florida's 1st district, Republican stronghold Escambia County went blue. It hasn't voted for a Democrat for president since 1960. That shows you that something is in motion, Claire.
Yeah, that was a really long time ago. I mean, I'm old and I was only 7. That was the year my parents said I had to go say trick or treat and vote for JFK when I was 7 years old. So it's a long time since that county voted for a Democrat. Yeah, there is energy. And I think what Cory Booker captured in his marathon speech, which took the historic record for the longest speech ever given in the United States Senate, was he gave a lift to everyone's frustration and anger, everyone's worry, everyone's passion about how badly things are going. And he made it very simple. He didn't attack the other side. What he said was, this is a moral moment. This isn't about right or left. This isn't about Democrat or Republican. This is about right or wrong. And him, along with the Republicans, rejecting Mike Johnson yesterday on the floor of the House. And I think we may have a vote tonight in the Senate where Republicans will reject Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada. You're beginning to see a crack in this shell. And I hope that will empower more Democrats to not sit on their hands and complain, but rather to get out there, peacefully protest, find out who's running, find out how you can help, and at the end of the day, decide you might run yourself for an office that matters.